Welcome back to the broadcast. We briefly look at what has been captured on the papers alongside John Kagusha, who's the Speaker in Nyeri County today. He finds himself into the studio and we're grateful for that. Dr. Isili Simiu, Member of Parliament Tongaren, who will be joining us shortly from now, and Dr. Barak Muluka, who's a communications advisor, who's equally in studio this morning. Gentlemen, karibu sana. It's always a pleasure to have you every other Monday of the week as we look forward to an incredible one ahead. And so much is culminating, or so much has culminated in the world of politics. And so we need to expound on that. But away from it, it is fair that we also look at what is happening in regards to news across, and well, matters education, very important, matters health, very important. Some of these stories have been captured on the papers, and sure, we'll be looking at that as the guiding factor. The Daily Nation, or the front page of the Daily Nation right here, and we look at the key stories on matters examinations and how these are crises, or what has been termed as a crisis of missing candidates. Where are they? Hundreds of students will not write their KCPE or KCAC. Those are the national examinations because they dropped out of school at the 11th hour. Head teachers cannot account for those who failed to report back in October. Story captured on page 8 and 9 of the Daily Nation. And as CS Magoha would equally say, it was not possible to get official numbers of missing candidates from the Education Ministry. Gentlemen. Honorable Kagusha. Yes, you can go fast.
I was just wondering if Professor Magoha is not able to get the details,
the numbers
from the Education Ministry.
Right.
And he's the overall officer in charge of that ministry. Then where should we look?
That's the question. And then it gets us wondering whether should we even bank on what it is that they say, that indeed they're missing candidates, if at all the numbers are not as clear. But as it's well put, from that level of the ministry, yes, but it is even unfortunate to note that at the level of schools, we still are not able to get the numbers. I mean, I would not want to assume that a school is so huge that the head teachers cannot be able to get these numbers.
Yeah, what I know is that in all the schools, a directive was given when the schools opened back in January, and all the chiefs and the provincial administration were supposed to together with education officers and the head teachers, were supposed to give a record of all the students who reported back and those who did not. And they were meant to account for all those students who did not report back. Yeah. As far as I can remember, I did check with my village, about 4 or 5 schools, and the reporting back was well over 99%. Yeah. At first, the first 1 week, the people who reported back, or the pupils who reported back, was the percentage was about 92, 93, 94 in different schools. Mm-hmm. But by the time we were through with the second week, the reporting back was well over 99%. Yeah. So I'm not very sure which candidates then are missing. I don't know whether the case is different in other schools, apart from what I have personally experienced in our areas. And I don't know, and I don't understand why the cabinet secretary in charge of education doesn't have those numbers either, because then he should have those numbers. You see, we have an intelligence system that is well established in Kenya. Yeah. And we also have a proper provincial administration system that, as much as it does concentrate on other things, I think education and health are very key and very important. Yeah. So we expect that as we move on our education, I mean our provincial administration, our NIS should put their best foot forward to get information to the government on matters education, on matters health. Remember the issue of contact tracing when the whole issue of COVID-19 started in Kenya? The way sometimes we experienced difficulties in tracing people who are considered to be infected or spreaders. If the intelligence system was used properly, maybe in the country, we would be able to get these numbers very fast. And with that, then we'll be talking about this number of missing candidates. Otherwise, I don't know why there's a screaming headline in the Daily Nation if you don't have numbers as well.
Right. Okay, well, speaking of which, every other paper has, a detailed story on matters education. That is what the Daily Nation speaks about. Well, the standard newspaper on the other side speaks of time running out for Form 4s to pick courses. that has been captured extensively on page 12. I would not, be able to probably understand or contemplate what this would mean. And then the question then would be, what really informs this? And on the other side, the People Daily speaks of classes that do not have teachers. Mystery of schools without teachers. That is also a story that has been captured on page 8 of the People Daily. Then the biggest question would be, what informs all these delays? What informs all these discrepancies that we witness today? I mean, just what bedevils the education sector?
I think I'll take an informed shot in the dark.
Yeah.
Every area, every discipline, in my view, should be left to professionals. There are people who are trained in education. They are teachers, basically at the first cognitive level. When you interact or when you meet them, they are teachers.
Right.
But they are also the same people who should run or manage education. When you go and take a urologist from his laboratories,
Okay.
and you take him to the Ministry of Education, and he tends to be an individual with certain draconian, certain dictatorial tendencies, someone who doesn't listen to other people. When he arrives, people are supposed to be afraid, to be intimidated. Then either they are going to sabotage him by just not doing what they are supposed to be doing, or they are going to feel intimidated to the extent that they are not able to do what they are supposed to be doing. When people go to university or to teacher training colleges, they are not just taught the subjects that they are going to be teaching in class.
Yeah.
They are also trained in educational leadership, educational psychology, educational management, and running educational institutions. And those are the people you see eventually becoming educational administrators at the grassroots level. Some of them become advisors in the old days of teachers' advisory centers, what we used to call TAC tutors. From there, you have got divisional education officers, district education officers, provincial education officers, inspectors. Then there's the inspectorate. These things that we are talking about, the inspectorate within the Ministry of Education, it should be able to tell us what is happening. I think these days they call it quality control or something along those lines. Then you go all the way up to the very top, and they are all professionals.
Hold it right there, Doctor. Are you trying to say that the watch of Magoha is that bad?
It's not just
in comparison to also those that have been there before, that equally were not professionals, so to speak, and maybe their watch was termed as what played out so well.
The derogation has been perpetual. It has not started with Magoha.
All right.
There have been others before him. But earlier on, in the earlier years, educational management belonged to educational professionals.
Experts.
Everything, Linda, should be left in the hands of professionals. Where you are seated there, you are a professional journalist. That's why you are there.
Right.
Even things like drinking beer should be left to professionals.
Right. Hold it right there. At what point, I know you've expounded so well, probably giving us an overview of what would make someone be termed as a professional. Melio Kipsang has been there for quite a while, and many argued that he is well conversant with the education system in the country. But we saw what happened the other day after that reshuffle, and Melio got himself into a different docket. I mean, would we expect more of tighter ramifications that would come along with this?
Well, I may not necessarily agree with Daktari on the issue of professionals in certain areas being the managers of that particular area. And I would want to refer to Ministry of Health, which finds itself in a tight corner because it has had professionals managing most of their affairs You have doctors managing the provincial general hospitals, the county hospitals now, or the referral hospitals. And we haven't had much improvement in terms of services because professionals are managing that area, especially doctors who are professionals. And I saw something last week. I think there was amendment to the Health Act, which was being debated in the National Assembly, which was presented by the Majority Leader, Amos Kimunya. And it intends to water down that issue of professionalism, something which I somehow agree with. I saw something, for example, like instead of having clinical officers managing level 3 hospitals and doctor NMOs, that management be left to managers. So that you have someone who has done business management, a law degree, master's, can now manage a level 4 hospital and even a level 5, rather than to have the doctors being the ones to manage, and hopefully then have doctors maybe then go back to the hospitals to be able to treat people, and then we have the managers managing. So I think the same case would also apply even in the education sector. We not always have to have educationists managing the system. I think what we need to have is experienced people who also listen, people who consult, people who depend so much on scientific research. And I think if Magoha probably was to listen more than talk more, if he was to temper his temperament and his personality with scientific research on how to manage Ministry of Education, I think he would still make a good manager just as much. Yeah, but I also agree with Dr. here that Magoha hasn't shown the best of him in this docket.
All right.
He did well at the University of Nairobi as a manager of that institution, in my view, but that has not necessarily come out so well in the education docket. And I think it can be blamed more on his temperament. He came with the thinking and the ambition and the vision like probably what Matiang'i had, and he wanted to be wielding a sword and a stick to the teachers and to the managers of institutions and to the education sector, something which may not have been received so well. If, for example, even you have to look at this particular issue that we were looking at, why is it that we don't have those numbers open to the public as to how many candidates we don't have in schools? It is definitely not because we don't have the numbers. We have the numbers. But what is happening? The minister or the CS gives directives that no one should talk to the media.
All right.
No one should disclose that information to the media.
Speaker, for a long time we've been talking about a reshuffle, or so to speak. I remember at some point in time also the conversation was rife that we should have technocrats, as CSs to handle certain dockets, and something that over time has been challenged. Look at countries like Zimbabwe, just looking after that watch of Mugabe, then came in Mnangagwa and, incorporated one person in the docket of finance who was considered to be, a renowned, economist, a specialist for that matter. But if you look at their economy, it is dwindling by the day. There is crisis day in, day out. So when you talk about having technocrats, is it really something that really holds water? And as of now, is it time then that the president considers a reshuffle, Doctor?
You see, it is a question of having professionals, I restate, because they understand how that profession functions. Okay. And then it's a question of creating an enabling environment for them. For instance, if you look at education, there's a way in which it works. It has got its infrastructure, it has got regulations, it has got its traditions and practices all over the world. When we talk about temperaments, the first thing about education is learning how to manage yourself, how to contain yourself. And these people we have seen in our classrooms, teachers, the first thing they learn is to contain themselves because they come across very many disturbing and annoying things but they learn to keep their cool, they learn to listen, as Mr. Speaker says here, and it's because they have been taken through it. Educational psychology, child psychology, group dynamics, which they have probably not taught you at the School of Medicine. And when you come out, even in terms of managing hospitals, for example, the best persons to manage hospitals will be doctors. These doctors, however, should also undergo some training in management and leadership. And if it's a hospital which is also established as a business entity, they also must learn some basics of business. They must learn some basics of accounts and accounting, people management, people skills. Then they are able to do the right things. Beyond that, they must have an enabling environment. We hear about doctors in this country every so often going on strike. And they say it's because the equipment, the facilities that they need in order to do their work, to serve their patients and the public, are not there. And it is because the people who are at the top do not understand how that environment is supposed to function. So when we talk about reshuffles, if it's going to be a reshuffle of placing square pegs in round holes, it will still not work. And if it's also a reshuffle, as we do in this country, of rewarding people who are seen to be your buddies, your cronies from your community. Look at the CS James Macharia the other day, making 3 appointments, all of them from his village, all of them from his family. What kind of discipline and delivery do you expect those people to make?
Minimal.
They can't.
All right. Okay. Well, on that note, that is in regards to matters education. We take a quick break. We'll be coming back with what is happening in the world of health, and then we cross over to the discussion in regards to the politics of the day and the state of the nation after this break. Welcome back. Let's proceed with the papers. Still with me, Honorable John Kagusha, Speaker, Nyeri County, Dr. Barak Moluka, Communications Advisor, and Dr. Eseli Simiu, Member of Parliament, Tongaren, has joined us. And now, gentlemen, once again, thank you for your time. Mheshimiwa, good to have you this morning. Karibu sana. All right, yes, you can use that microphone meanwhile. And so before we close on the papers, one of the key stories, most of the key stories that we have this morning what will be forming the basis of our conversation. And so we can as well get into that, but not before we discuss the coming in of the vaccine that is set to get to the country tomorrow. Hope at last, as COVID-19 jabs land in 24 hours. And with the drugs expected tomorrow, priority will be given to healthcare workers, teachers, security officers, and vulnerable persons. A story captured on page 5 of the People Daily, and equally on the front pages of these other newspapers. The vaccine is here finally, Speaker.
Vaccine is here, and I think one of the things we expect to hear from the Minister of Health or the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Health is about the efficacy of this vaccine. It's about the local tests by our own professionals. I am of the school of thought that we do not need to, or we're not supposed to embrace the vaccine 100% before it has been taken through our own testing facilities. We have scientists. Let them also be able to look at the efficacy of this vaccine. Let us also be able to see if it works for us, if it works also with our DNA here in Kenya, and if it is likely to have any side effects. Yeah, so I think that is one of the things that Kenyans would also be very keen on, apart from the availability. But having now received the information and the good news about the availability of the vaccine in Kenya, I think is still something to celebrate about, because if this is going to help us now kind of get back to our normal lives, I think is something that we need to celebrate as a country.
Right.
And the distribution of the vaccine again also ought to be informed by need, as we probably get more and more vaccines to the country. For now, we need to stick to the arrangement that has already been announced to the public, such that people who are in the health sector, people who are on the first line of helping us fight the COVID-19 are the ones then who are going to get this vaccine on a priority basis.
Right.
Yeah, and it's our hope that this vaccine does not get its way into Tanzania. Yeah, indeed. Because as Kenyans, we get very disappointed when we receive goods that are supposed to come and help Kenyans, and then we hear that they have been diverted at the airport.
Yeah.
How can that happen without the knowledge of the government?
True.
How can that happen without the knowledge of the top dogs in the Ministry of Health? It really is very amazing in Kenya that some of those things can happen without the knowledge of the senior officials. So we expect that Kenyans will be protected from those cartels. And these cartels are known, they exist. They have done us a very great injustice in the Ministry of Health. We know what happened in KEMSA, we know what happened even with the managed equipment services, which of course the other day curiously and rather suspiciously was cleared by Senate. And of course many people know what may have happened in the Senate when this was happening.
Let me loop in Daktari on this one. Daktari, even before we get to that, there's an interesting story there in regards to matters education, because it's education that we're looking at on the front page of the Standard newspaper that speaks of a scenario where teachers are now demanding more allowances for dealing with rowdy students. And maybe the training aspect that you were talking about now comes in handy in regards to this, but we drop that one for now. I guess you would say Speaker and I have celebrated too early when we argue that the vaccine is here. It is set to hit the country tomorrow, but then again we cross fingers that indeed they'll not be diverted for that matter.
I saw a senior health official yesterday saying that they will arrive at 5 minutes after midnight tomorrow. And the logistics were very precise, where the vaccines will be taken somewhere in Kitengela. After a couple of days, they should be everywhere elsewhere they're supposed to be in the country. And there seems to be a very clear regime about how they are going to be put to application, who is going to be involved. And I do hope, like Speaker Kagusha is saying, that we do not hear some of those usual stories. Dr. Eseli Simiyu is in the habit of telling us that we are a kleptocracy, a nation that believes in theft. And you know, when you say we are a kleptocracy, you are saying that it's a government led by thieves. We steal everything. We steal exams, we steal elections, we steal money, we steal graves. There's nothing we don't steal, and therefore the fears that are being expressed here are legitimate.
Dr. Iseli, we said we expounded toward a kakitocracy, or what was that?
Kakistocracy.
Can you use the microphone, sir?
It's Barack who introduced the kakistocracy, but which I tend to agree with him.
Yeah.
But I would say that as a medical doctor, from that perspective of this vaccine, first I would say that congratulations to the scientists that within such a short time they were able to come up with a form of vaccine. It might not be as effective as we would expect, but I'm sure research is still going on to come up with a better, more effective vaccine. But given the kind of thing that COVID is, then those kinds of viruses mutate very fast, and therefore continuous research on what type of vaccine will be effective where and when is important, because if you take the flu vaccine, for example, it keeps on changing, so that the vaccine that you get this year might not be the same vaccine you get the following year. And this virus falls in the same category. So I would like to tell Kenyans that to know that yes, a vaccine is available, but it's bound not to be 100% effective, and it might need frequent changes. And that's, to me, a wake-up call to the government that we need to invest more in our research institutions, and they should also be equipped to be able to produce vaccines, because this sort of vaccine will be changing frequently. We'll need newer versions coming on the scene, and we can't always be importing. It might be cheaper for us to make it for ourselves, but that needs substantial investment in institutions like KEMRI. And I think it's a wake-up call to our government that they need to put more money into research and development.
Yeah.
So we should invest more in KEMRI. If anything came to Parliament showing that we are putting a lot of billions in KEMRI for research and development of such a vaccine, I would definitely support that. Because unfortunately for healthcare, many of our leaders don't understand the importance of healthcare, because they would like to put up roads, huge buildings, huge projects, physical projects, so they are seen to be working. They don't know that investing in health, while you might not see it as a road, you might not see it something that will be labeled opened by so and so, or the whatever foundation stone laid by so and so, which will be in perpetuity. But in healthcare, you won't get such a thing. But definitely, the investment in healthcare will eventually be seen in the productivity of the nation's people, because a healthy nation is a wealthy nation. And many leaders have not realized that, right from the county governors to the national government. So this vaccine, yes, is coming, but it's not, how do I put it? It's not a one-off solution. It's a beginning, and we need to continue investing in it, because the vaccine that will be effective this year might not be effective next year, because the virus will mutate. So we need to keep on investing in it, and that's the truth that we need to face. So what I'm trying to say is that we need to invest more in our scientists. We need to invest more in our researchers. We need to invest more in those institutions that deal with that. And of course, for those that don't deal with that, we need to invest more in our institution like KIPRA, Kenya Institute of Public Policy Research and Analysis, because it also helps. But for us, for a while now, we've not been relying on such institutions, and it's unfortunate. Yes, we'll clap and say hallelujah, the vaccine is here, but rest assured by next year we'll need a different sort of vaccine.
Okay. All right. Well, let's drop that one for now, because well, it's a conversation that is developing, and we'll be here to keep you up to tabs, because we'll be having our team on ground following up on the same. Gentlemen, let's get to the discussion of the day, because we have a couple of things that we'll be looking at, but all this revolves around the matters of politics. And the other day, that is on Monday last week, we had you here. We're looking forward to Super Tuesday, which actually played out, and the conversation on matters BBI, over time is taking different directions, so to speak. Had conversations with people the other time, and the argument was that we might actually not even need a referendum, and so we'll be getting into understanding just what way or what next for the BBI. And so coming to you, Speaker, your county assembly gave it a clean bill of health. A lot of allegations in regards to whether this was a genuine move or not. Claims of bribery are here. Does it make you feel proud? And do you feel like indeed the members of county assembly were genuine to have given this bill a clean bill of health, so to speak?
Well, I may not have had genuinometer.
You are the speaker. I mean,
to be able to measure how genuine and how not genuine some of them may have been. Yeah. But what I can say is that I'm very proud of our assembly, because we did open the floor for everyone. I know in some areas there could have been concerted efforts not to do that. But in Nyeri County Assembly, we did open the floor for everyone to make their contribution. We had those who supported, we had those who did not support. The only thing is that those who did not support were fewer, much less than those who did support. And we had a very interesting and lively debate where we gave everyone an opportunity. And I remember one particular MCA trying to disrupt one of those who were not supporting when they were on the floor, and we actually had to send them out for a couple of minutes so that everyone could get an opportunity to express their opinion and their view. And of course, the Nyeri MCs did express their opinion, most of them really supporting the issue of the allocation of resources more to devolution or to devolved units. A lot of them talking about the one man, one vote, 1 shilling approach that is embraced in the BBI. So those are some of the things that the MCAs did raise. I know the issue of bribery comes up because of the issue of the car grant, and I think the issue of the car grant to the members of County Assembly, I don't think really that would count so much in terms of the BBI, because they were looking for this allocation for quite some time. The process had been ongoing for so long, and for them they were only satisfied and happy that they were listened to, and eventually this well-deserved facilitation came by. Of course, the taxman news is also hanging now on the members of County Assembly with the claims of taxes that are supposed to be paid, which has also hurt the members of County Assembly badly, and we hope that something can be done for them to definitely be exempted from that kind of a tax, since this really a grant. I know Dr. Eseli here, I know when they were given their car grants, they did not go through that process of again taking it back to the same government. You know, in this case where members of County Assembly are being given with one hand and is being taken with the other hand. But nevertheless, the issue of building bridges initiative in the Nyeri County Assembly is something that we did open and objectively allowed everyone to make their contribution. I think that is, as a speaker really, that gives me pride that we allowed everyone to have their opportunity and their say. Okay. Yeah. All right. As Dr. reacts to that, I'd equally want to pose this question. We have seen that Right Honorable Raila Odinga has constantly pushed on the DP side to come out and declare their stand as to whether they are no or yes in regards to matters BBI, or what exactly it is that they feel about the BBI. In a way, they have done that, but then it's not quite clear whether it's a no for them. Why is this, desire for, a camp that speaks over no? Why is there so much desire for that? And why does it have to be, a no from the DP side? I mean, is a no from Martha Karua not as good that there has to be so much push that is being mated upon the Tanga side? Doctor.
There are two doctors here.
Yeah,
Doctor of medicine.
Doctor of medicine and doctor of
philosophy.
Philosophy. All right.
Yeah. First, I think the BBI thing is a foregone conclusion.
Yes.
We shouldn't even be spending more money on it.
Right.
Wherever it is that the money is coming from, maybe that is a conversation that this country will have some other day. Yeah. We need to have it sorted out once and for all. Mm-hmm. We will live with the consequences, whatever they will be, good or bad, and we need to take this country through that phase. As a citizen of this country and a keen observer of the social and political landscape, I'm concerned about what seems to be a deliberate attempt to whip up sentiment through creation of what you call that camp and this camp, and pitting them in hostile competition against one another. Someone is probably thinking that that is the best way to start moving towards an election, that you have camps that are mutually hostile to one another. And since both the former Prime Minister and the Deputy President have indicated that they are going to be running for the highest office in the country, that the best way to do that is then to become confrontational this early. You do the sort of thing that we saw in 2005, that there is a constitutional referendum, and that one alliance then morphs into a political formation. And these things are being said every day in the open, that this will become an alliance of the seven brothers, and that eventually they are the people who should form government. You know, it's the sort of thing that I see children doing. Kids, when they are watching a football match, one can say, this is my team, and they can force the other team on you, and they tell you, and speaker, this is yours. Whether you like it or not, you lead that one. If I have said I don't want to be the one to lead, I may have certain things that I don't agree with in that whole package, and I will not stop talking about them. But you cannot tell me that you must be the one to lead the no campaign. Gideon Moi came out a lot more constructively, and I don't know whether it was him alone or it was their collective decision in State House, when he said that having reached here, we urge everyone to come and join us so that together we can move this thing the rest of the way and emerge from it a united country. That is what a leader does. A leader doesn't tell people, stay where you are. Don't change your mind. Don't even try to come this way. Not that anybody is trying to go that way, in my view. But we want to meet you at the debate. There's a certain kind of almost childish bravado. And it's this kind of childish bravado that led the country to the chaos that we saw in 2008. And I just do hope that the ICC is watching over this country, the things that are happening. Forget about NCIC. That one is a dead horse.
Oh no, you cannot say that. All right, but wait a minute before we come to Dr. Eseli Simiyu. In a scenario where it's almost evident that, as a leader or, as a team, you have decided to call on this person to, just shift to this other side, and there's evidence, or evident resistance that is being seen, what then do you do? Is it not fair that you just tell them, okay, then take that stance, take that side, acknowledging the fact that this person enjoys quite huge support, and therefore there is need that he tells his supporters or she tells her supporters that this is the way to go? Before I said before Dr. Eseli Simiyu comes in, so please, Dr. Barak, we're still on you.
You see, Martha Karua, and you can see here,
yes,
even the viewers can see, Martha Karua has said that she's going to lead this campaign.
Right.
And the democratic space does not have to define itself in black and white. There are gray spaces, there are gray areas. And I can say that this is where I am on this matter. Previously, while there was still scope for conversation, I said, let us talk a little more about certain areas. I'm still not satisfied about those areas, but I cannot have it my way. I have had my say. And if I've had my say and the majority are having it their way, they don't also have to tell me that I must go into position 7 and become the leader of the no campaign. What is this thirst, this almost hunger that we are seeing some people craving for hostile competition. Because the things that they say about each other, and here it doesn't really matter whether it is the DP who is speaking or it is the former Prime Minister who is speaking, the things that they say about each other are frightening. Yeah, they are frightful things. This is how chaos build up, how they snowball over a period of time. And if you are going to have those hostile competitions in the lead up to the referendum, which I'm told is coming in the month of June, and after that you hit the ground moving towards the election 2022, my friend, the temperatures will be so high that even without any effort from anywhere, the country will burst into a fireball. We don't need that as a country.
Indeed, God forbid, as they would say. Honorable Eseli Simeo, last week we saw the president meeting political parties, or the leaders of certain political parties. Well, you would explain why Wafula Wamunyinyi was not there, but then again, we'd want to assume that yes, Ford Kenya was represented fully also to speak. Does it speak of a scenario where, a certain group is uniting against one or two, as has been purported, and as such utterances, what indeed we need to be scared about?
First, I'll dispose of that one quickly.
Yeah.
Wamunyinyi not being present is simply because he was already convinced on BBI and the handshake long ago.
The microphone.
So,
sorry.
Wamunyinyi not being present is explainable. He was already convinced on BBI and handshake long ago.
Okay.
So he didn't need to go to State House to be convinced.
Okay.
He has always been that.
Was Raila
Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta were convincing the others, because these others have been sitting on the fence and sometimes hitting on BBI long from time immemorial. So that is explainable to me. And I think if you really look at it objectively, that's what it is. Because these fellows, Musalia Mudavadi, Wetangula, Kalonzo, had always questioned a bit, and they were very uncomfortable about
Gideon Moi.
I think Gideon Moi must have joined Raila and Uhuru to convince the others.
We allow him to get away with that.
They had been very, very questioning about BBI and handshake and so on. There are those who had felt they were left out of the handshake.
So
like that.
why didn't Wamunyinyi join Raila?
Join Raila and Uhuru.
To convince.
Wamunyinyi was bereaved, and he had gone to arrange for his brother's funeral, which was postponed after that. But so it was not necessary for him to be there. But these other ones had to be convinced, and you know how they have to be convinced. Sometimes the convincing has to be financial, especially where Weta is involved. However, that's
that's a very serious allegation.
That's it.
That's very serious.
Can I go on with you said that the DP enjoys so much support, and I keep on saying that sometimes what is said does not necessarily reflect what is on the ground. So you need to distinguish between enjoys or buys a lot of support on the ground. You need to distinguish those. Right. And then the other thing is this BBI, whether Parliament passes or doesn't, it still goes to a referendum. But from Parliament, it will go to the President before the President tells the IEBC to conduct a referendum. And by the time the President tells IEBC to conduct a referendum, his people, his experts will go through that BBI and tease out what needs to go to referendum and what doesn't need to go to referendum. So perhaps by the time we get to the referendum stage, the question might have been reduced much more. Well, that's my speculation. But I would say that there's been a lot of lies bandied around about BBI and so on. And while the main people banding around these lies have been the Deputy President's people. And I think what they have done is, what we shall say, give a dog a bad name and hang it. So after they have done what they have done, they don't need to come out now and lead the no, because they have done enough damage, and they believe that the damage they have done is good enough to fail the BBI at the referendum. because I'm sure the speaker will tell you, when you go on the ground, many of those MCAs who might have voted yes, but they oppose it on the ground, you'll find them still talking and saying, we don't support this.
Yeah.
So they are hoping that, yes, while the counties might pass it, they are hoping to defeat it at the referendum stage without necessarily coming out to show that they are actually opposing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what some people call support. You know?
Right.
Opposers. So these are people who are very well versed in doublespeak. You know, they speak with from both sides of their mouths. So you can't quite trust them. And that's actually what Kenyans should know, that if they vote in the DP as the next president, that's what they'll expect for the first 5 years. He will speak from both sides of the mouth, and you'll never know whether you're going or coming.
All right. Okay, well.
That has been his nature throughout.
All right.
Now, with this BBI thing, I think what the DP was avoiding was that he can convince even his MCS, by the way, to vote yes. Because he's avoiding an early defeat. Because if he had suffered an early defeat at the county assemblies, that would have dealt a mortal blow to his team. So strategically, he avoids that by maybe even convincing some of his own MCAs to vote yes.
Right.
Because I know in my county, those people who oppose were actually seen with the MCAs convincing them to vote yes.
But
So
I mean,
that
is it
would have
not
been a
what
message.
we've really advocated for? The fact that we can have this conversation, without focusing much on political affiliations. And in this sense, then, if you look at this document, if you look at this bill as something that would be progressive and would be good for the common mwananchi, that in as much as you are on this side, it is only fair that you proceed to.
I think what you need to realize is, and I said this over the weekend, Kenya is a young democracy.
Yeah.
And being a young democracy, we should be ready to keep on changing here, changing there, tinkering here, tinkering there, till we get it right. Because apart from being a young democracy, we are also a multi-ethnic society whose ethnicity has been brought out so fiercely.
Yeah.
So to overcome that, it will take time. Kenya has remained as one, and it will remain as one. As leaders, we must be ready to tinker with our laws, our constitution, our way of life as much as possible, so that we can get it right. Last night I was watching some program where people were talking about bride price, for example, and some were castigating it as retrogressive, as what, without looking at the cultural aspect of it. There's a cultural aspect of it that justifies it. But unless we actually internalize these things. So back to the BBI. You've seen all these lies. Like some have been throwing lies around that BBI will introduce the issue of MCAs must have degrees before they stand for election. It's not in the BBI. That's the elections law. And it was supposed to have been effective in 2017, but Parliament sat down and postponed it to 2022. So now we've reached 2022. People have to make up their mind. Is that what we want? I personally don't support that, because I don't believe that a degree is a vaccination against idiocy and stupidity. I've seen many people with degrees who are so idiotic. You can't, So a degree is not a vaccination against that. And in fact, when we insist on that, then we just give the River Road people more business to create papers for people to go and run in certain offices. And then, like the MCS car grant, for example, this has been a long simmering thing. And for me, I can say it because I've not sworn anything about government secrets. But when MCS met His Excellency the President one time, the President granted them the vehicle grant. Unfortunately, one of the leaders of the MCAs said that no, if it's not 2 million, 1.5, we don't want. Okay. And the president said, oh, you don't want? Thank you, I need the money. and that's how they lost it. So it's something that has been simmering for a long time. And the issue of taxing them doesn't arise, because the way the car grant is granted, at least in Parliament where I come from, you don't get the cash. You decide where you are buying the car, and the Parliament pays directly. so that the taxes are paid by whoever is selling you the car, the VAT and so on and so forth. So unless these guys are insisting on the money going into their account, then that can be a problem.
Right.
But if really they're using the grant to buy a car, then the money from the assembly goes directly to the seller of the car, and the issue of taxes doesn't really arise. Then the issue like of constituencies and BBI. Somebody is saying that, oh, even without BBI, by the law, after 10 years, IEBC is supposed to review boundaries.
Okay.
But remember, Kenyans had been saying that, no, we have too many constituencies already.
Right.
So that's why we needed to get a referendum on this, a general consensus on this.
All right.
So I think what we need to do is that we need to realize that a lot of opposition to the BBI has been purely political. And the DP and his people now trying to pull out of it is just a camouflage.
Well,
Because
the argument too is that they're
against
pulling
it.
out because they have this feeling that, or they have a strong conviction that, this after all will sail through. Probably picking up from what it is that Dr. Barak speaks of, he says that we should not even focus much on this because it's almost cast in stone that the document will sail through. Is it fair for us to argue
Avoiding
that way?
defeat.
No, acknowledging the fact that, this goes to the people, if at all it will, and then the people have the say. And equally with such conversations that we're having right now, would be instrumental for them to make candid, decisions as to whether they should sail the document through or no. Don't you think it's only fair that we keep talking so that people can as well make decision based on, the information that is there? Because a majority, honestly, will tell you they have probably not had a chance to go through the document.
Yeah, well, I will answer that question, but before then, it's unfair to let the comment by Dr. Eseli go scot-free.
Okay.
No, not so much on MCAs, but on the visit to the State House. You can't just explain using the kind of explanation that Daktari has given here.
Yes. As to why
that the president and the former prime minister and Gideon Moi were in State House to convince Ngilu, to convince Kalonzo, to convince Musalia Mudavadi and Wetangula. And the reason why Wafula Munyi was not there is because he was converted earlier on. Really, I think that would be very subjective. That would be very subjective.
Wait a minute. Allow me.
He was at Uhuru.
It's not in my practice to interject.
Yeah.
But this is too much. Mheshimiwa Eseli Simiyu says that these people went to State House to be convinced. And then he says, especially where Weta is concerned, and he gives the rider and money is involved. Are you getting it? That these people went to State House to be bribed?
To be bribed.
They went?
Okay.
Okay, it doesn't matter.
Well, there's bad blood. Well, that is evident.
Forget about the blood. I will assume there's none.
Yeah.
Because I know Mheshimiwa Eseli Simiyu to be a noble gentleman, and he must know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I have known him over a long period of time, since the 1970s when he was a student at Nairobi School. And I have known him to be somebody to be trusted. So, and he was in Nairobi School in the 1970s.
Yeah.
That's how long I have known him. So when he says that somebody went to State House to be convinced and that there was money involved, then I must start wondering why State House would want to use money to convince the NASA principals to support the referendum. And I would want to wonder whose money it is.
Yes.
And I would want to wonder beyond that, why this thing that is so good needs inducement all the time. Speaker here has spoken about the car grant to the MCS, and which he justifies.
Yes.
And I must understand the human factors behind that justification. Speaker, without imputation of ill motive on your part. The timing. This sense of timing is completely wrong. Things must be seen within the environments in which they are done. And I would invite you to challenge my noble friend of more than 40 years to substantiate how much money was involved, how much was Wetangula given.
Because then again we could castigate him, but he has facts.
Did His Excellency the President hand it over to him personally? Has it been wired to an account?
It's good. It's good. I'll take on the challenge.
Yes.
I think it's good that my colleagues have raised. At least they took note of what I said.
Yes.
One, which is very important, that they took note, and I think they have seen the sense in it, and that's why they have come out to question. But the truth of the matter is, any campaign involves money. Any campaign for that matter, including the referendum campaign, even getting the counties to say yes, although this meeting was happening after the counties had said yes. So all those things involve money. So when I say that where money is involved, I was not necessarily pointing out singularly about
the exchange.
Senator Wetangula. I was just saying that especially where, because I've known that. And I think what happens here, what happens here is that the truth of the matter is, if you go back since the handshake, you will realize that these people, one, questioned the handshake and they felt they'd been left out. These people questioned even the BBI when it first came out.
Yes.
If you remember, one time Musalia and the DP were speaking from the same script about having to change some things in the BBI, reaching compromise and things like those. So indeed, it's true that quite a number of them opposed the handshake, opposed the BBI. But I said from when they questioned it, I said that come the swearing in that birthed the handshake and the BBI, Wamunyinyi was present at Uhuru Park.
Okay.
So for him, he didn't need any convincing. He was convinced from the word go.
Well.
Yes. Yeah, so what I'm trying to say, I know it's uncomfortable for people to hear this, but it's true. He didn't need any further convincing.
Okay.
Because if you take Bungoma County, for example, Wamunyinyi has been all over in support of the BBI and the handshake from the word go. So he didn't need any convincing. But if you go to Bungoma, you'll find that the MCAs that are on the Wetangula support line have been rubbishing the BBI for a very long time now. In fact, they speak from the same script with the DP's people. So it's Wetangula who needed convincing.
So that he could go convince his people.
So that he can now, he had convinced, they voted yes, but now he needed convincing so that he can go and convince them further to go on the ground and support it.
And for the referendum.
So I think that's one person who needed a lot of convincing.
All right.
I think, and Kenyans are very creative. You know, I saw people describe the 7 men who were in State House, and someone had gone back to the Bible, 1 Samuel 16. We have to read from verse 1 all the way to around verse 10. And someone was saying that, and then Samuel walked to Jesse's home to anoint a king. And Jesse asked the 7 sons, including Eliab and the rest, to pass in front. And then out of the 7 sons, none of them was found to be worth of the anointing. And then Samuel asked, are these all your sons? And Jesse said, no, there is the youngest who is tending sheep in the field. And then Samuel asked, then bring him over. And when he comes, then David finds this is the one who is supposed to be anointed. Could that have been Wafula Wamunyinyi? Maybe. who was not present.
Or Mugiza Kitu.
And was tending sheep in the field.
Who could this be, Dr. Barak? Who could this be? Who is playing who in this case? Because, I mean, supporters of Baba have equally come out to tell him, you know what, you need to stay woke. In this case, then, amongst the 7, there's literally nobody that stands out. So who is this one that is out there?
Since Charity Ngilu was there,
yes,
and she's taken as an honorary male,
yeah,
I must assume that it was Martha Karua.
And then, well, it remains a game of assumption and speculations until time is right.
Yeah, it seems like the 7 were there, but there is one who was tending the fish. The sheep
DP says that he's out here, he's doing what he is supposed to do constitutionally. He says, stop castigating me, stop questioning me. I was elected alongside President Uhuru Kenyatta. A tough talking DP out here. Why now?
You know, we have had tough talking deputy second in command before, because when you have killed the opposition, and the opposition now sounds increasingly like government, then that message which the opposition represents will find its way in a corner within the government, within the ruling party. That is why after the amendments of 1964-65 and the crossing over of Kadu and the others into Kanu, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, who was the vice president of Kenya, became the leader of opposition. And he was leading that opposition from inside government. And in the proper order of time, when you had now muzzled opposition completely, including detaining people and whatnot, that voice still remained there. It will still find a platform. And this time now it was doing its work from what you'd call a little opposition corner within Kanu, what Charles Njonjo called the 6 bearded sisters. So for the time being, it's going to play it out around the DP, whether we like it or not. He's actually playing the role that should be played by the opposition. And surprisingly, you have opposition leaders, some in parliament and others outside, and they are telling the DP, oh, you are not respecting the president. Where in the world do you see such things happening? Here in Kenya a few years ago, when Vice President George Saitoti could no longer see eye to eye with President Moi, the people in the opposition, Mwai Kibaki, Michael Wamalwa Kijana, Charity Ngilu, they said, come and work with us from where we are so that we can remove this bad government. That is the natural flow of things. But this country is full of deceit. People are not able to look at phenomena, to look at things in the eye and call them by their name. So to use the notion of doublespeak that my good friend, whom we go back many years ago, has raised. You have somebody going to cavort and hobnob with the president in State House. Then the next day you find him somewhere in the stumps criticizing the same president, the same government. It is not right. You need to be in a situation where you allow the opposition to be the opposition, and when you are the opposition, you become the opposition. In a sense, you can say the same of the DP, that he's in government and he's also firing at the same government. When I look at what is going on, I see a DP who knows Mbaya. It is bad, and therefore I will steadily say what I think must be said, and I will wait for them to do their worst whenever it is that the time comes for them to do their worst. And these things that they keep telling me, resign, resign, I will not, because I was elected with the president. There are some votes which he got which he would not have got if my name had not been on that ticket. And so if they want to eject me, let them use legal means to get rid of me. And after they have gotten rid of me, I will cross that bridge and take the next decision.
All right.
Yeah, well, to be truthful, the meeting in State House really was not about people being initiated into BBI. It was not at all. In fact, it was about a review of what had happened in the Super Tuesday, and the party leaders, so to say, had gone to celebrate and thank the county assemblies for having passed the BBI, and but much more. It was about show of might. It was supposed to show that all the political heads from across all the other political divide are together and they are standing as one. Another
alliance in the making?
Yeah, and at some point Gideon Moi has hinted to that, talking about Super Bullet Alliance. And this really was supposed to be kind of a climax of the fact that 42 county assemblies had voted for the BBI from across the country, and then showing like the country is united for BBI, and then we have these top leaders who have come again together to show that the BBI has support also from the higher political class.
The president has worked with the DP in the toughest of terrains. Why is it that it's becoming hard for him to convince him to probably support this document at this point? I mean, if he speaks of a scenario where he seeks to achieve peace, that this is a document that speaks of peace, yet the DP side sort of feels like it's being segregated in this particular scenario. It is a huge undoing, don't you think so?
In the power politics, you disguise as much as possible.
Okay.
There's nothing about peace in the BBI. It is much more of a document also to help us manage the transitional politics of 2022, and that's why the issue of show of might is important, at least for optics reasons. It was very important. You also saw the members of parliament coming together, I think about 30-40 of them, saying that now they're starting the campaigns this week for referendum. I mean, all these would be to kind of try and show might and try to show that now this is the way we are going, and to show that the DP is losing traction and all that. And it is not in the interest of anyone in that group of 7 to have the DP join the bandwagon. It is in the interest especially of Raila Odinga to have the DP, and as he has said as much, to have the DP opposing and leading the no campaign. And it's clear to everyone that the BBI process will terminate successfully, to the favor of the BBI.
Okay.
And because that is so clear, then one would also want to...
why would you term it so clear?
No, I mean, right from the word go, we have not had a proper counter narrative being led by a force to reckon with in the country, because the DP avoided.
Why should it revolve around individuals? Why should it revolve around the force to reckon?
It's politics, and in politics you convince as many people as follow you and as they listen to you. So in this case, the DP right from the word go refused to go that route. He refused to lead the no campaigns. And the group that brings itself as the campaigners of the no campaign, or the leaders of the no campaign, is it the Katiba?
Linda
Katiba, yeah, led by Mother Karua and the activist Boniface Mwangi. I think really they are what we would call in politics the underdogs now. They are not powerful in terms of the narrative, and they wouldn't be either. So the fact that now we don't have anyone with a very serious narrative against the BBI, it means that the BBI will kind of sail through without that much opposition.
Why should it be about that as opposed to substance? Let's allow Dr. Isili to come in, or you had to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to complete that statement and say that really is what was happening in State House. Just to give it an objective analysis, that's what was happening in State House. It was just a show of might, and it is the hope of that group of 7 that the DP actually remains on the other side. Why? So that if in case the BBI goes through, then one can be able to shine and say, we have been able to put you down. And in fact, you will see a lot of that rhetoric coming. You know, I'm just doing this for our viewer who may probably want to understand what is really happening, and genuinely so. Yeah, so you are likely to see a lot of that rhetoric of trying to push the Tanga movement more into the no, as this other side is more into the yes. So that eventually then you can have a winner and a loser, which Tanga has also been very keen to avoid. They have kind of, if you look at the way they behave, they have kind of said, no, we are not going to lead that. And if you look at the way they are doing it, they are concentrating more in campaigns for the by-elections that are almost, that are happening now in Kabuchai, in Matungu, is it Matungu?
Yes, Matungu.
And London Ward, and I think Makueni. Yeah, so you find that they are more into that than much into the BBI issue. If you look at the issue of even what happened in the county assemblies, there was really not much investment by that group in terms of preventing the county assemblies from bringing down the BBI. In fact, even the members of members of parliament who tried to campaign against MCAs getting 2 million, very soon realized that that campaign was not taking them anywhere, and they actually now got off that bus.
So it's side.
Yeah, so that's what is happening.
Dr. Selisimi to come in.
I think those who think that the DP is a fool are wrong. He's a very, very smart politician. That one, I'll give him that. And he knows what to do where. And when he doesn't know what to do where, he goes underground until the whatever passes, then he resurfaces. So here, what we are saying is that the DP knows very well the cost of funding the no. He did it in 2010. Okay. So he knows, because the DP by there has never supported any constitutional change. Commit 205, commit 2010, and even now with the BBI, he has never supported any constitutional change. So he's a very, very extreme conservative. That's what people should know. And he's just being smart. He knows the cost of the no campaign, so he's avoiding that cost because he knows he has a heavier cost next year. Okay. So why spend money now? And what he has done is now he has set his fellows free. His fellows are really on the ground campaigning against the BBI at any meeting, any chance that they get. But publicly, he says he doesn't care about that. That's not the issue. But I think what happened here is simply that he was asked not to get the country into the campaign mode so early, to allow the president to finish his whatever, so that, for example, if he had taken the advice, now is probably when he would be starting to campaign. But he insisted on going on with this campaign.
But of what impact would that be? Because remember what it is that he was told. William Kafogo reminds him that you cannot get much from this side. You have to go out there.
Yeah, but it's true. But I think, to me, he set a very dangerous precedent for this country. He set a precedent that shows that any deputy president who comes after him is free to defy his boss, which is a very dangerous precedent for this country. And if he ever becomes president and his deputy defies him, he has got no leg to stand on to castigate his deputy.
He's moved around a couple of times, and the president has cemented that by saying that, if you see him moving around, just know he's working under me. So why?
The thing is, as I told you, the DP is a very, very smart politician. So he coils words around to justify what he's doing, and so that you forget about what it really is. But to me, my only fear with that is that he has set a very dangerous precedent.
Hold it right there.
Because the BBI is not changing that part of the president and deputy being on the same ticket. So the deputy will be part of the presidency. So they will be married at the hip forever, since it's not been changed at all. Even the BBI is not anticipating changing that.
All right.
So we are setting a very dangerous precedent. And I think, if I recall, the president had asked him to go slow on the national campaigns to allow him to deliver whatever he was trying to deliver. but the deputy president defied him, which is a very dangerous precedent.
Hold
but,
it. Mheshimiwa, allow us to take a quick break and then
but,
we come back.
Before, as we finish,
yes.
And he has won this badge of his humble beginnings, okay? That even anybody from down there can make it, which for a young democracy like Kenya, everybody has come from down there.
Can you call it,
everybody,
since you have allowed us to continue,
everybody has come from down there.
We are being patient.
And then
right.
criminalize anybody who appears to have been born from a better off background. We are being patient. Which is unfortunate.
Right. In that case, well, you win. I'll allow you to come in.
Sometimes
because I'm not finished. Because I'd said that he's criminalizing anybody who appears to have been born from a better off background, regardless of whether that better off background was because of hard work or whatever, just the way he says he has worked hard. So everybody should criminalize his progeny, that they should not look for leadership. You know, that's what he's telling us. Okay. So wearing a humble background as a badge, as an entitlement to better things, I think is the wrong way to go about it. Because many people in this country, being a young democracy, a newly independent country, most of the people below 60 came from that background.
We are going to ask you to bring a bell.
Okay. So that we can be ringing that, yes?
Or a whistle in the future.
I can do that. I will do that, actually.
Which would be good. First, Dr. Eseli Simiyu should decide whether we are a young democracy or a young kleptocracy.
Or a young kakistocracy.
Or a young kakistocracy. And having defined what we are, we have the conversations within those prisms. But I want to agree with Dr. Eseli Simiyu that all our backgrounds are noble, that there are very few Kenyans whom you would say were born with a silver spoon in their mouths. And then suddenly we see that some people are massively wealthy. What we refuse to talk about is old money. Yeah. That there are people in this country who are beneficiaries of old money. And put very plainly, it was stolen money. There's no way someone can be in any state office between the period 1963 and the 70s, and they already own 1/8 of the arable land in the country. They have to tell us where they got it. And I keep saying we need honest and candid conversations on these things. There are thieves calling other people thieves. There are people who are inheritors of stolen wealth, and which we need to talk about the same way we talk about new money. If you are a beneficiary of what is stolen, and if you are handling stolen goods, you are guilty. In fact, you are worse than the person who committed the original sin. And we need to deal with these people, all of them.
Slow wheels of justice
New ones,
that we have.
Old ones, we must deal with all of them.
This how?
That we are not
opening a Pandora's box.
It must be opened.
Okay.
This thing which we call the TJRC has been sitting in Parliament for how many years, Doctor? You've been in Parliament from the time before.
I don't know if it's still.
And while it was supposed to have been implemented as soon as it was handed over to the president, there was tinkering with the law that said it will become implemented as soon as Parliament has discussed it and given the go-ahead for it to be implemented. That is the Pandora box in this country. It must be dealt with. In this country, we are talking about an alliance, Super 7 alliance. The question is it an alliance of Kenyans or an alliance of who? Is it the kind of alliance that I saw when Mohamed Farah Aidid in Somalia and Siad Barre and Omar, I don't know who, were trying to form their own alliances? We need to know that we are not talking about alliances of warlords or people who could transform into warlords. Who are they representing? Which voices are they representing? Is it an alliance of Kenyans? Are they Kenyans of different shades of political opinion from across Kenyan communities? Or are they people who are presenting themselves as tribal leaders who can also very easily morph into tribal warlords and say that we have zoned off this area? About the Constitution, Mheshimiwa says several times, he has used the word, the phrase, a dangerous precedent. And I think we are setting an extremely dangerous precedent if we are going to decide which way our Constitution should go based on the temporary passing political competitions of this day and age, that there is the former Prime Minister on one side and the team that he leads, and there is the sitting Deputy President on the other side and the team that he leads, and that you think about where the Deputy President is with regard to 2022 and where the former Prime Minister is, and we make a decision on a constitution that we want to pass to future generations. It is extremely worrying. And remember that some of the changes that we want to make today, in order to vary them, howsoever you wish to vary them, you must go to another constitutional referendum in the future. How I wish it was possible to remove the personalities from these things. Get out the Deputy President, throw him in one corner. Get out the former Prime Minister, put him in another corner, and then just discuss this thing. If it is good, let it go through. If it is bad, but it has some good, let us straighten that which is not good. But to be saying that Ruto is afraid of being defeated and therefore he is now not leading this thing, if it becomes a competition between Ruto and Raila Odinga, or between Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta, or between any leaders and combinations and formations of leaders, we are taking this country into a ditch. And if we are lucky, and I use the expression if we are lucky deliberately, we will have another day to come and sit here and ask ourselves what happened.
Wow.
I think we need to,
as we come to a close,
if we talk about old money and whatever, old money was stolen and it's there, but does it justify now the latter day thieves?
No, it doesn't.
The new money.
It
now
doesn't.
to be castigating the old money.
It doesn't.
I mean, you if you live in a glass house, you should not throw stones.
Okay.
But that's what's happening here.
Then
the
we must
TGRC
deal with
report,
all the thieves.
the TGRC report has been brought out by a number of the political class and commentators as the panacea to everything. My assessment, I read the TGRC report, and my conclusion was it was a timid rendition of the past. It was so timid. If people are scared of such a timid document that they can't bring it for debate in Parliament, it tells you what more is there. Because that, when you read that TGRC report, actually it was a very timid rendition of the past. It didn't really come out clearly and hit hard on what needs to be rectified. Then the issue of...
make it brief, sir.
Yes, the issue of tribal chiefs coalescing in State House and so on and so on. I would say that versus the hustlers and dynasty debate, I would say that in a place like where I come from in Western Kenya, the impoverished part of Kenya is Western, in the sense that the poverty levels there are higher than even in some places you think have been impoverished. So it's a fertile ground to sell this hustler dynasty thing. But because there's no dynasty there. They are all very, it's a very fertile ground. But we will not allow that kind of deception to mislead the people of Western. Then the key thing on the BBI is this, that actually, when we did the Constitutional Review in 2010, everybody, all the views gathered, were about getting a parliamentary system of government. Where did the presidential system come from? It was decided by the people who went to Naivasha. And that included the Deputy President William Ruto, the President Uhuru Kenyatta, Martha Karua, Moses Wetangula. They were all in Naivasha. Nobody in Kenya gave a proposal for a presidential system. So if they could do that, why not bring now the BBI, which will bring back the parliamentary system that the Kenyans wanted?
Right.
Anybody not seeing that is being unfair, because if there was anybody in Kenya who gave a proposal for a presidential system, tell me. But I know nobody did. This was done by those fellows who went to Naivasha, and they need to come out clearly and tell Kenyans who told them that Kenyans wanted a presidential system.
Honorable Kagusha, in 30 seconds, so now that he chewed your time, I'm sorry.
I think the only thing I would like to mention is that, well, the BBI might have very good many things that Kenyans will eventually enjoy. But I also want to say that we need to be a bit more balanced in our approach to the BBI, because we are having a lot of politicians over-promising. These over-promises might be under-delivered once the document is passed. Let us not put our people high, because we don't want to leave them dry eventually. And I've seen, Kenyans, as I said, are very creative. I saw someone complaining about lack of a job and standing somewhere with a placard and saying, if you want to hire a store person or a clerk or a secretary, I'm available. And then someone said, no, those kind of people should be told to wait for BBI. BBI is coming to resolve all those problems, including marital problems, including those who have...
Now, well, as we close...
So really, I think we need to not overpromise. Let's just be fair and objective so that we can sell the document, but not put people's hopes where they shouldn't. Let Kenyans know that they still have to continue doing and working hard in their day-to-day businesses, so that then they can be able to make it in life.
Honorable John Kagusha, Speaker, Nyeri County, Dr. Eseli Simiyu, Member of Parliament, Tongaren, and Dr. Barak Muluka, Communications Advisor. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Next time, I will have a bell for sure. You can be rest assured that I will have a bell for us. And next time, I hope we can discuss the opposition within. There's so much that I wanted to ask about that. The opposition within, the merits and demerits. Now that we say historically this has been happening, does it help the common mwananchi in any way? Does it help us in having a good government? A question of wait and see as we look forward to that conversation. We close it at now and we cross over to a different one altogether after this break.